Good evening, Rabbi. We're going to talk tonight about the laws of marriage a little bit. What does that mean? That there are certain people who are not allowed to marry into the Jewish people. So we have to know how that works. The truth is that these laws are very complicated, So we're not going to get into every little nook and cranny in detail. This is not our job right now, not our scope. But we have to just understand the basic outline of how it works, basically. That's the idea. So number one, right, obviously, the first thing a person has to know is that a Jew is not allowed to marry a non-Jew, right? That's, it's very, very clear. Where is this written, by the way, this prohibition, not to marry a non-Jew? It's written in the Chumash, right? It says, Lo titchaten bam. What does that mean? Don't marry them. It says over there, what is it talking about over there? It's talking about when you go into Eretz Israel and you confront over there those nations that are there, those non-Jewish nations, don't marry them. That's what it says over there. What's the reason why not to marry them? It says over there, the reason is because if you marry them, your children are going to come out to be, probably idolaters, because they're going to influence them to become idolaters and so forth and so on. There's also the issue of that if you have a wife who's not Jewish, your children are also not Jewish, right? So that's also another problem. Okay, so we understand, right? That's the idea. The Chumash says don't marry a non-Jew. What's the punishment of the one who marries a non-Jew? So the truth is, right, that it's Isur Karet. What does that mean? He gets cut off from the Jewish people. He gets cut off. This is one of the prohibitions which there's cutting off. This is written in the Shulchan Aruch as well, written in the Gemara. What does it say about them? It says about them that these people who married non-Jewish wives, they're going to be cut off from the Jewish people. That's what it says over there. It brings them from.
Explain to me what does cut off mean?
What does that mean? Right, the cut off is an interesting thing, right? It's a whole issue in itself. Yisur karet. What does that mean, karet? What does that mean? It means that a person is not really like he's been excommunicated from the Jewish people.
Okay,
but from Shamayim. Not from us. We didn't do nothing to him, but God excommunicates him. What does that mean? Now he's not a member of the Jewish people in the sense that he's lost his status as a Jew, temporarily anyway, until he does tshuva. Right? If he does tshuva, he can come back.
So he's not part of the minyan.
Oh, for sure he won't count on a minyan. There's no question about that. Right? There's no question about that.
Let's say he never did tshuva.
Right.
Does he get excommunicated in the next life?
So what happens is that if a person married a goya, if he married a non-Jewish and he didn't do tshuva, he has no portion in the world to come. That's what it says about them, right? They have no portion in the world to come.
Why do you emphasize the woman?
I'm sorry?
Why are you emphasizing a woman?
The truth is that they're both prohibited,
but
but there are different severities and different degrees. What does that mean? As we said, right? If a Jewish man marries a non-Jewish woman, his children are not Jewish. That's much more severe.
Jewish,
you know what I mean? Right. The children are not Jewish. They're the goys. The children are Jewish, right? Like we have our friend, David, from over here. Right? Remember our old friend. He's not Jewish. His mother is not Jewish. His mother is Armenian. You know what I mean? So he's not Jewish. You can call me all you want. Janashvili, Banashvili. Doesn't make any difference. He's not Jewish. That's the idea, right? Whatever it is. That's the way it is. So what happens is that, but when the other way around, when you have a Jewish mother and a goy who's a father, so the children are Jewish. So it's already a different ballgame altogether, right? It's not the same thing at all. There are different severities regarding these things.
Yeah.
Also, the truth is, to be honest with you, even though it's prohibited for a Jewish woman to marry a non-Jewish man, but it doesn't say that they're cut off because it doesn't say karet about that. It says karet only about the Jewish man who marries a non-Jewish woman, right? That's the idea. So it's more severe in several ways, in several manners, as we said, right? There's also another thing a person has to understand, that when you marry a non-Jew, basically the marriage doesn't take effect. In other words, you could go to any institution, some church or some reformed synagogue, and marry a non-Jew over there, but it doesn't take effect. You're not married, technically speaking. There is no such a thing as marriage between a Jew and non-Jew. It doesn't take effect. Does not have any significance in halakha. So therefore, if you want to divorce her, let's say, right, you may need to get divorce papers from the government. That's something else. But when it comes to halakha, there's no divorce necessary. You never were married to the person, So no such a thing as divorce. No, no such a thing like that. Mm-hmm. That's the way it goes. Okay, so that's very clear, right? It's very well known that a person is not allowed to marry a non-Jew. By the way, what's the reason why that we're not allowed to marry a non-Jew? People always tell me, but she's such a nice girl, and he's such a nice guy. He's so sweet, and it's maybe true. You never, right? They are sweet. They're nice. They're good people. That's not the issue. The issue is that when the Torah was given, right? The world was divided up into Jews and non-Jews. We come from a different, it's a different breed, it's a different pedigree, it's a different species now. In terms of physically, we look the same, more or less. But when it comes to spiritual, the soul is not the same. So what does that mean? That we're attached to the Kedusha, the Jewish people, to the holiness. They're attached to the other side. So, it's like AC/DC, doesn't go together. It's, no, we're not talking about the rock band. Right? We're not talking about that. Right? So it doesn't go together. AC/DC doesn't go together. Plus, minus doesn't go together. You got to know what you're dealing with. You cannot marry somebody which is not meant for you. It's not pertinent. The marriage doesn't take effect. Okay, that's known. But there's also, between the Jewish people themselves, amongst them, there's also people that you're not allowed to marry as well. This is not so well known, I guess, whatever. The most, I guess, the famous one, which is the mamzer, right? Which is the illegitimate child. Right? There's all kinds of maybe misconceptions about what this is and what it means, to be a mamzer, whatever. Some people think it means like you're a sly person, tricky. Mamzeria, like this kind of, it's like, the reason why they use that jargon is because mamzerim are known to be like, the personality is known to be like very funky personality, you know what I mean? They're like, like somewhat like, brazen, a brazen kind of personality, arrogance. There's something like that with the mamzer, characteristic like that. And this is the reason why they use all these terms like that, terminology to name them. So what is a mamzer, right? In English we call that a bastard, that's what it means, right? A bastard is a mamzer, that's what it is. So the question is, what does that mean technically speaking? Halacha. It means that a person, his parents that had the union that brought him into the world was a forbidden union. What does that mean? That they were not allowed to marry each other. This is the idea, right? But it's not only that they were not allowed to marry each other, but the prohibition was very severe, like karet, as we said, right? Or it was like skila, even like death penalty. What does that mean? Let's say it was adultery, right? Let's say that these two parents, that he brought them to the world, they did an act of adultery to bring him into the world. So he's a mamzer, this person, that's what it is. If he came from that act, right, he's a mamzer. So he's prohibited to marry into the community. That's the idea. Same thing also applies, let's say, if a person had relations with a sister, let's say, right, and they brought a child into the world. This is also mamzer. Right? These kinds of things are mamzerim, right? All these things are prohibited very severely. Isur karet or isur skila, right, death penalty. So therefore, all these kinds of things, they bring mamzerim into the world. And these mamzerim are not allowed to marry into the Jewish community. How many generations does this prohibition go? It goes forever, right? Until the end of time, 10 generations, 100 generations. That's the way it is.
So once a mamzer, always a mamzer.
That's it. That's always a mamzer, right? That's the idea. Yes. It never gets cleansed. The truth is, by the way, the Gemara says that in the times of Mashiach, there is an opinion they will be cleansed in the end. Because in the end, everybody's going to be cleansed. You know what I mean? In other words, either it's do or die. In the end, either you make it or you're like, totally cast out, right? That's the idea.
So if I was to marry, now, I'm single.
Right.
If I was to marry a non-Jew, I'm excommunicated.
Yeah, so long as you stay that in that condition. You know what I mean?
You won't even accept me here.
Well, what happens practically speaking, that's a different issue, right? It has to do with the president and the gabayim and what they do, all these kinds of things. But in terms of God's viewpoint, the person is gone. He's a goner.
You won't come with me to dinner.
Well, the truth is that these things have their own dynamics. What does that mean? Sometimes a person has to do all kinds of things in order to benefit, his friend. To try to bring them closer, there's all kinds of things that have to be weighed.
So I won't be
when it comes to
outcast.
Well, the truth is, that the ones who marry non-Jews, to be honest with you, they outcast themselves. They don't even come to shul. They don't come. They don't come to synagogue. Right. They usually lose their Judaism. You don't see them anymore. Eventually, they're going to get lost. They're going to get. We had some friends, by the way, that we grew up with. They married non-Jews, and we don't see them anymore. They're not around. Yeah, we never see them in the shul. We don't see them in the in the yeshiva. We don't see them anywhere. They're gone. That's the way it is. They outcast themselves like that. Unfortunately, that's what happens. So that's the rule. So when it comes to mamzer, right, as we said, it's a little bit different. Mamzer is like prohibited, but it's still a Jew.
Are they allowed to marry a Jew?
Who?
The non-Jews.
Oh, just like we're prohibited, they're also prohibited, right? Yeah, of course, it goes both ways, right?
I see.
That's the idea. For sure, it's prohibited on both sides. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
You remember we were here talking about some similar stuff, and you said that there's nowhere in their laws that say that they can't commit adultery.
No, that's not true. I never said that. They have a prohibition for adultery.
Yeah.
They do have a prohibition on that.
Yeah.
They have also prohibition on homosexuality.
Right.
They are
Okay.
prohibited to do these kinds
What's
of
the
things.
definition of adultery?
Yeah. Adultery means you go with a married woman. That's what it really means. That's the only definition that there is.
That's Webster's definition.
No, that's the Jewish definition.
That's
That's
the Jewish
halakha.
definition.
Yeah. You go with a married woman.
You go with a married woman.
That's adultery.
Okay.
So if you have relations with a single woman, it's okay.
That's not adultery. That's a different kind of a sin.
That's a
different category. Right, exactly. It's a much less, much
I
lower.
never knew that.
Yeah.
I thought adultery was
anybody.
Yeah. The truth is, that let's say if the man is married, right? Let's say, and he went with a single girl.
Yeah.
That's not really called adultery in Jewish law.
It's cheating.
Right? You're cheating. It's like it's like you're cheating. I mean, it's not. I'm not telling you it's allowed to do that.
No,
what I'm
it's
saying is that it's not called adultery technically speaking.
What about
Woman.
the woman?
What about the woman? If she's married, so she's doing adultery.
Even if she goes with a non-married guy.
Yeah, because she's married. You know what I mean? She's married. That's called adultery.
So
That's
it,
the idea,
it
right?
works differently for a woman.
Right, it's a little bit different. Yes.
Second-class citizen.
Second.
That's fine. That's fine.
I don't know.
Right?
Yeah, I don't
So that's the idea. So when it comes to mamzer, as we said, cannot come into the community. But the truth is, that there are some issues about mamzer. A person has to know. When does the Torah tell you that a mamzer is not allowed to come into the community? For sure it's a mamzer. 100%. But what about if there's a doubt, right? We're not sure if there's a person out there. There is suspicion, but it could be that it's not also. We're not 100% sure.
Is it very significant about the mamzer? I mean, how many mamzerim do we know even?
We have many of them, by the way. We have many of them. You'll be surprised how much we have.
You mean the Jewish community as a whole?
Yes. We have many. Yeah.
What's
You'll be surprised.
a man and woman bring a child together?
Yeah.
Without a ketubah, is he considered to be a mamzer?
This is not a mamzer. This is a kosher child. Kosher.
Okay, now I understand what's mamzer.
You mean before a wedding? Before
Right. Premarital situation. Right. Yes. That's a kosher child.
I see.
And they never read ketubah.
Yeah. I mean, they should have done it, but they should have. But
They don't.
the child is not made into a mamzer like that.
But he does.
As we said, the mamzer only comes from what? If it's isur karet, something which is cutting off. It's like a very heavy prohibition. So what happens is with the mamzer is like this: you have a case where a person is for sure mamzer, that's prohibited. But if it's a safek, if it's a doubt, so according to the Torah, they're permitted. That's the interesting idea, that we have regarding the issue of mamzer. That when it comes to safek mamzer, doubtful mamzer, come Shalva, sit down, join us. Okay, come back. Okay. Okay.
אני חיילי סנטוחוץ. סמטה מטור, סמטה.
I'm sorry.
Okay. So as we said, that safek mamzer, doubtful mamzer is allowed according to the Torah, but the rabbis made an enactment on that. They prohibited also that. So therefore, according to the rabbis, if a person is doubtfully a mamzer, this is also prohibited. So then, what do we do with the mamzer? What can he do? What options does he have? He can't marry a normal Jew, right, from a Jewish family. He can marry another mamzer. That's number one, right? If there's another mamzer, he can marry another mamzer.
But their descendants are still going to be mamzer.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh yeah. We cannot stop that. There is a trick, by the way, with that. I'll explain to you how it works. But there is a trick that they do with this thing. But so their children are going to be mamzerim, even if it's only from one side. By the way, it's a mamzer, the child. Let's say one of them was a mamzer, one of them was not mamzer. The child is mamzer. It goes forever. Until we said, right, that maybe in times of Mashiach, they'll fix that problem. But there's qualifications. So what we're saying is like this, right, that the mamzer, with one doubt, is not allowed to come in. But there's also sometimes where you have two doubts. Safek, that's called, in Hebrew, it's called safek sfeka, double doubt. So if you have a double doubt, two doubts that are regarding this mamzer, these are allowed to come in. So you should know, by the way, this is a trick that the rabbis use. Many people come, to the rabbis, big, poskim, and they tell them like this. They tell them, listen, they told me that I'm a mamzer. Can you help me out? Rabbi, do something for me, Get me in, get me off the hook. Find a loophole for me. So what they do is the rabbis look for a loophole. That's what happens. what they try to do, they try to find two doubts about this mamzer, to see if there's two doubts. If they can find two of them, they can permit them. There's a story, by the way, which is brought down.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
So in other words, two witnesses that might say, maybe he's maybe.
Not two witnesses, two doubts.
What do you mean two
I'll give you an example. For instance, right? Let's say for number one, we're not sure. Let's say who the father was of that child. It could be that the father was an adulterer, so then he is a mamzer. It could be that the father was somebody else. We're not sure who the father is, right? Let's say we didn't do DNA tests, right? We didn't do any of that. Whatever, that's a different story. But in the old days, they didn't have that, right?
Of course.
So we're not sure who the father is. So we're not sure. It could be right that Petre is the father. It could be Pablo is the father. We're not sure. That's one doubt. There's also another doubt, right? Maybe she had relations with a goy. So the truth is that interesting idea in halakha, which is that if a person has relations, a woman who's married has relations with a goy, even though it's adultery, but the child that comes from that goy is not called a mamzer. Interesting idea, right? Not called a mamzer. So therefore, if there is a suspicion that she went with a goy, so this is also another doubt. So we can permit her because of these two doubts. One is that we're not sure who the father is. Maybe it's this Jew, maybe it's a different Jew, or maybe she was going with a goy altogether. We don't know who the father is. So there's several things like this. Sometimes we can permit because of these. A person has to know how to do this. By the way, there has to be a very qualified rabbi who knows how to do these things. Our Rabbi Maran, he taught a lot about this. He wrote about this in his books. Yebi Omer. Over there, he says if you read this book that I wrote, Chelek Tet, the 9th volume, so if you want to know how to bring in mamzerim and this kind of thing, read this book. He told us everything you need to know. You'll know over there how to do the whole job, right? From A to Z. That's the idea, right? So therefore, a person has to know how to do this. There is a technique to bring them in. There's also another interesting technique that a person can do, which is written in the Mishnah. What's the technique? The technique is that, let's say a person is a mamzer, right? So he knows he's a mamzer. So he doesn't want his children to be mamzerim. So what does he do in order to prevent that? So there's a trick he can do like this, right? He can take a woman who's not Jewish. Okay? Can you imagine? Not Jewish girl. And he tells her, in the old days, by the way, I just want to give you a pre-sample, right? A pre-lesson over there regarding this. In the old days, they used to have slavery. You know how it is, right? There was slavery. So what happened was that people used to take sometimes a non-Jewish slave, and they would be working for them. Nowadays we don't have slavery, right? It's been already abolished a long time ago. But what we're saying is that there was such a thing like this. So, but there is, technically speaking, such an institution still. Technically speaking. So, but you can't force anybody to be your slave today, right? What are you going to do? Take him with a ball and chain, and tie him up, shackles? You're going to get arrested like that, right? What are you going to do? So, but the truth is, but there is a way you can do it. You know how? You know how? Go to a non-Jewish woman, right, and tell her like this, listen, I'm going to pay you $10,000. You agree to be my slave for 6 months? It's just a technical thing, I'll pay you for that. So what happens is like this, right? You pay the lady.
That is the way.
Exactly. They do it also for papers, to get citizenship. You know how it is, right? There's all kinds of things like this. So here we're talking about doing it for the right reasons. So what we're saying is like this, right? You go to the
Papers.
you go to the lady and tell her, listen, I want to have a child with you.
Okay.
So you're going to be my slave for 6 months. I'm going to have or a year, let's say, right? I'll pay you $10,000. You agree? It's going to be very easy for you. I'll treat you really, really good. I promise you, right? So she takes it, right? You have a child with her, right? You get her pregnant. She's your slave. The truth is, right, that when you take a slave as a non-Jew, you have to also do like some kind of a conversion. You have to take her to the mikveh first. This is like the pre-conversion,
To live with her.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
But
So what
if
you do is,
live with her, you can just.
but the truth is, every slave you take non-Jewish, you have to take her into the mikveh. Take them into the mikveh. That's the rule. In general, that's the way it is. So what happens like this, right? You now will have relations with her. She's not your slave, technically speaking, right? Even though she's not really, she's not working too hard, right? She's like, hanging around, shooting the breeze, right? Whatever, collecting money from you, right? So you take her. So what happens is that you now have a son from her, and your son will also be a slave because it goes according to the mother. You understand? So your son, because she's a slave, your son is also a slave. You understand? Even though technically speaking, it's your son. So now what you do is you free him, and you make him into a full-fledged Jew, and he's now kosher. So this is the way you can take a son, right, your son, and take away his mamzerut, remove his mamzerut by doing this trick. This is brought down in the Mishnah, this trick, right? The truth is, you can even do this today. It's possible to do it. If you really know how to maneuver, you got to get a rabbi to help you. If you want to do this kind of a trick, right? It's possible to do it. It's even today. That's another way. Yeah.
If you know how to navigate in the gray area.
Exactly. That's the idea. You got to be a navigator. That's the idea. Very good. Very good. So that's also another way to clear up the mamzerut, to do this kind of a trick. There's also another trick. So the other trick is like this, right? That sometimes what happens is that somebody marries into a family, right? And that person was like doubtfully a mamzer, doubtful. Once that person marries into a family and he was doubtful mamzer, so what happens is that it's considered to be like kosher now. In other words, it disappears. So there are things like this where a person, it's called itama. It's like a person just gets swallowed up into a family, and that person was doubtfully a mamzer. So once he marries in, and now we don't, we pretty much don't have a trace. There's all kinds of things like this, right? So there is a way to cleanse mamzerut as well. That's the idea, right? There are tricks like this, but the truth is, the best way, as we said, is that to have two doubts. This is what most rabbis do, and they do, by the way, lots of cases like this. They bring it, the big expert rabbi, big posek. They bring him a case and tell him, Rabbi, help me, I'm in big trouble. I don't know what to do. My situation is very, very bad. So they come and they bring the case to them, and the rabbi studies, this issue and goes and finds sources and this kinds of thing, right? And in the morning, the smoke clears, and you're kosher, right? Come into the community.
So you don't have to split water?
This actually happened to one person. I heard a story like this, right? One of the big poskim of our generation was Rabbi Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, one from the Ashkenazim. It was in Eretz Israel. So what happened was that he came. One person came to him and told him, this. She said, Rabbi, he says, I feel so bad. I went to the Rabbanut, in Israel, Rabbanut. They're the ones who are in charge of marriages and divorces and things like this, right? So when I went to Rabbanut, they told me this: I can't marry my fiance. Why? Because I'm a mamzeret. That's what they told me. I'm a mamzeret. I cannot marry. So he says, Rabbi, maybe you can find something for me. Whatever. Find me a solution, whatever. Because the Rabbanut is not budging. They're very strict about it. So what happened was, he says, okay, he says, I'll look into it tonight, and I'll try to find you a solution. So what happens is that the rabbi, that night he didn't sleep, he was so anxious to get this lady, get her a solution. You know what I mean? Right, exactly. All night he didn't sleep. So what happened was that in the morning, he found her something, like as we said, you have to find doubts, all kinds of issues like this. To pick up, some kind of corners, all kinds of things. He found two doubts like this. He found her way. He calls her up in the morning. He says, okay, come, I found a good solution for you, and I'm going to get you in. So he got her in like that. That's what happens, right? So they came some rabbis, after that to this rabbi. They told him. They said, Rabbi says, don't you feel like you were too lenient a little bit? Pulling all kinds of tricks like this, loopholes, this that. So that's one of the things that they asked him. The question they asked him says, Rabbi, why didn't you sleep? All night you had to go. It says like this, and study all night. Get some sleep and do it tomorrow morning. What's the rush? So you know what he answered them, right? He said, regarding sleeping, he says, when I see a fellow Jew like this in distress, I can't sleep, I feel too guilty to sleep like that. I had to find a solution first. That's a real rabbi, That's a real rabbi. Number one, he really loves the Jewish people, right? That's the thing. Number one. Number two, he says, regarding what you said about being too lenient, so he tells them, he says, just like a rabbi is punished for saying about something which is forbidden that is permitted, he's also punished for something which is permitted. He says forbidden. He says, I'm going to get punished if I tell her you're forbidden, if she's really permitted. So if it's really permitted, you have to say permitted.
How did she find out that she's a mamzer?
They told her in the Rabbanut. They have records of everybody. Understand? They have records. Everything is recorded. Right, exactly. Who married who? What happened here? What happened there? Right, the whole thing is, chapter. Yeah, it's the marriage police. Right, that's the idea. Right. Okay. That's the way it works.
რაბანოთი გიცრუაძლე ააძლებენ, ნუ დაუძახეს სოლდატებს. Who's იღებენ?
Yeah, of course. No, you're talking about Israel. In Israel? In Israel, they don't take money for the get. Because, you know why? They're afraid that if they don't have money, they're not going to do get, and then there's going to be mamzerim, this kind of adultery. You understand? So they do it for free. They do it for free, yeah. Over here, they charge.
I'm sorry, Rabbi.
They charge over here. Yeah, they charge, yeah. $500, $1,000, whatever it is,
Sorry,
What can I tell you, To be honest with you, there's all kinds of issues with that, I don't want to get into politics, Zogarian, banditebi, So there are some people who are like that, There are people like that. You have to know how to do these things properly.
Yeah.
But what they do is, interesting thing, in the Rabbanut, they give you the get for free. Right? They give you a get for free, but there's a caveat, right? There's a condition. If you want to get a certificate, they charge you for the certificate. You understand? So what does that mean?
Without certificate.
Because in other words, you are divorced now, even without a certificate. You're divorced because there was a get. But if you want to get a certificate, they tell you, okay, pay now $200, right, for the certificate, because they have to charge you for something. Otherwise, they have no budget; they can't survive. Just like a big Knesset, they have to have a budget, right? You're president. Without a budget, how are you going to survive? How are you going to have workers? How are you going to have mushebi? This rabbi, to pay the rabbi. You have to have a budget, otherwise a person cannot survive like that, right? Without, you know how it is, right? They have to charge you somewhere.
The minute certificates, the Rabbi should charge them.
Laila tov, brilliant. That's the idea,
Frank should charge them the chamokide. Why I laugh every time you say mamzerim.
Yeah.
My.
Right. The Georgian stereotypes.
I'm imagining like millions of mamzerim gathered together somewhere. Sign up without any mamzerim.
The truth is, you want to know, by the way, how severe mamzerut is in the eyes of God? It says in Midrash something amazing, It says that because what happens is that throughout the generations, there's many mamzerim that come into the Jewish people. Many, Every generation you have, like, let's say, 50,000, let's say, right? Just for argument's sake. Round number. 50,000.
Come in, like, oops.
Adultery, this incest, things like this, It happens all the time. This is like a very common occurrence. Especially in our generation. What are you kidding me? This is like,
You see, love child.
I don't know.
The one that was running for president.
So what happens is like this, right? When you have a...
Edwards. Love child or kamoshta.
Right, so what we were saying, I'm sorry, remind me what we were saying.
About how mamzerim come every
right, so it says in the Midrash like this, right? That when you have, like, let's say every generation 50,000 or whatever, so it says that God, knows every one of them, and he's very concerned about that. Why? Because he doesn't want intermingling between the mamzerim and the Jews.
But
this is going to destroy the whole country.
Beings.
Yeah, of course. They can marry another mamzer, they can marry a ger also, they can marry a convert as well. They have options. You know what I mean? But what happens is like this, right? That the mamzer, HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want them mixing into the Jewish people on a massive scale like this, Massive scale. So what happens is, it says in Midrash something amazing. It says that every few generations, what happens is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings some kind of calamity to the Jewish people, where many people die. We're talking about thousands, Why? Because to kill the mamzerim. You understand? That's why he brings that calamity. You may think, what happened? Where was God? God was there. He was planning the whole thing. What do you want from him? And that's the idea. So what does that mean? That God knows every one of them who's a mamzer. So therefore he gets rid of them in order that they should not mix into the Jewish people. So every few generations, says the Midrash, he makes like a cleansing, ethnic cleansing. You know what I mean? That's what it is, basically, right? Whatever you want to call it. And that's the idea. He cleanses the mamzerim out of the Jewish people, because otherwise it's going to get totally out of control. This is the idea, So this is the reason why this has to be done.
Rabbi, what does the Torah say about a gay president?
Hashem should help us that we shouldn't see that. We shouldn't see a gay president. We shouldn't see a communist president.
Bakanucic, what's his name is?
Listen, it's an agenda. What, you think that this is just a coincidence?
You're right, it's an agenda, you're right. They're testing the waters.
Now they want to get
they're testing the waters.
To get a woman in.
We shouldn't see a gay president. We shouldn't see a communist president. And none of that stuff. We don't need this kind of stuff.
What, you don't want a first man in the In the White House?
First man.
First man.
The first man was Adam Rishon. That's all I know.
By the way, in Iowa, where they had the first caucuses, they found out one of the voters that he found out this Baganucci, she's a gay. He said, I withdraw my vote. Just because of that reason.
Right, so we see, right, that the issue of mamzerut, how severe it is, that Kadosh Baruch Hu takes it very, very seriously, whatever. There's also an interesting Gemara, which is brought down about mamzerim. You know what it says? That the truth is, that when a mamzer is born, if that mamzer is not known that he's a mamzer, in other words, the wife got away with some cheating, she pulled under the rug, she went under the table, nobody found out about it, she's very sneaky, very tricky one, there are those, very tricky, very sneaky, so nobody finds out, but the child is a mamzer. So what happens is, it says in the Gemara, that if nobody knows that this child is mamzer, except the mother, obviously, right, the mother, that child will die young, because the Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want that he should mix into the Jewish people, so therefore he kills them at a young age, like as a baby. That's what happens. This is what happens. So the only way that a mamzer can survive is if somebody knows that person is a mamzer. Because if nobody knows, this is very dangerous. So Kadosh Baruch Hu takes them like that, right? Takes them away. That's what happens. In order to save the Jewish people, the cleanliness of the Jewish people, right? That's the idea. This is what Kadosh Baruch Hu does to resolve these problems. Okay, very good. I think we got the idea of what's a mamzer. There's also another issue, which is like similar, we're talking about the converts, right? So the converts, what's the rule of the convert? Any Islam convert today, right? Kosher convert, right? Orthodox convert. I'm not talking about reform, that's fake, right? That's whatever, that's something else. But a real Orthodox convert, a real serious convert, who are they allowed to marry? Are they allowed to marry to the Jewish people? So the truth is they're allowed to marry Israel, Israel Ashvili, right? Whatever. Right? Israel, they're allowed to marry. But what about Levi? Are they allowed to marry Levi? Yeah. They're allowed to marry Levi. But Kohen? No. That's the idea, right? No, they're not allowed to marry Kohen.
You're talking about a person that was born a non-Jew and converted.
Right. So a convert, lady convert, is not allowed to marry a Kohen. But they can marry Israel, they can marry Levi.
And vice versa also, convert man?
So regarding the convert man, he's allowed to even marry a girl who's daughter of a Kohen. It's allowed to do that. Because the daughter of a Kohen is not really a Kohen. That's the idea, right? It's not the same thing. So therefore, in a case like that, it's allowed to do. But this way, it's not allowed. So convert is allowed to marry all these. They also can marry a mamzer. Convert can also marry a mamzer as well. So they're allowed to marry a Jew, a Levi, Israel, Levi, and a mamzer. They're allowed to marry, right? And they're allowed to marry each other as well, right? One convert with another. That's for sure. These are the options. They have a lot of options. They can pretty much do whatever they want.
After two people convert, they have a baby that's already a Jewish baby.
Right, that's not called anymore. Right. He has no blemish. There's no blemish there. There's no blemish there whatsoever. There is something there a little bit regarding marrying a Kohen, but that's a different story. Okay, whatever. But the idea is like this. We're not going to get into that now. It's something very small, very insignificant. Whatever. It's not really insignificant, but it's minor, comparatively, so relatively minor. So regarding, as we said, right, a stam convert, regular convert. Doesn't matter, by the way, which nation they come from, whether they're black or white or yellow, Asian, purple, red, whatever the color of their skin is. We don't care about that. We have nothing to do with the color of the skin. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the fact that they converted, right? That we Jewish people, we're not racists. We're colorblind. We don't look at the color of the person. We have no business with that. We have also black Jews ourselves. So who are we to tell people, don't be black, don't be we Jews also have black people. So, we're not into that racist stuff, right? That's not the way we go. We're colorblind. We're not into colors. That's number one, right? But the truth is that if you look in the Torah, it's not like that, right? What does that mean? It says in the Torah that if you have ger Adomi and if you have ger Mitzri, right? What does that mean? Egyptian convert or Adomi, right? From Esav, Roman convert. That's the idea, right? What's the din with them? It says in the Torah, you have to wait 3 generations for them to marry in. What does that mean? If the person converts, he's a Roman, right, or he's an Egyptian, so he cannot marry a Jew. He can marry another convert, whatever, as we said. His son cannot also, and his grandson can marry. So you have to wait 3 generations. That's the idea. That's the way it works with these 2 nations. Why these 2 nations are singled out like this? What's the reason why? The truth is that there are several reasons for that. But the simple idea is like this, right? That they both, Esav and the Egyptians tried to wipe out the Jewish people many times. They're enemies of the Jewish people. They try to wipe us out. They try to harm us. As we know, right, the story of Paro, we know what happened with the Roman Caesars, what they did to us, right? All the murders and the Holocaust and all these kinds of things.
About Egyptians were Egyptians and Italians.
Yeah, the truth is, I don't want to say Italian because Italian now is a mixed bag. It's not exactly, not everybody's a Roman over there. You know what I mean? We're going to talk about that right now. I want to deal with that. So the truth is that we're talking about basically from Esav, and we're talking about the Egyptians. When we talk about the Egyptians, by the way, we're talking about the original Egyptians, not who we have there today, right? These Mustafas that we have today over there. Ahmed and Mustafa, these people are not the original Egyptians. You know why? Because the original Egyptians were wiped out, basically. They pretty much are extinct. Or they got mixed in to the other nations, and we cannot identify them anymore. The original Egyptians were a very particular group of people, and they were like very special, also. They were very smart and very, very advanced people, they were not the Egyptians that we have today, these people over there. Yeah, exactly, right, exactly. These farmers over there. Not big like that, right? That's not what they were. They were a superpower, These people were very, very, very amazing people, So today we don't know anybody who's an Egyptian. The ones who are, and also regarding Esav as well, the situation is like this, right? That today, the people of Esav, the descendants of Esav, are mixed into all the nations. Whether it's Europe, whether it's South America, North America, and other places as well. They're all over the place. Yeah. They've been already mixed into it's a big melting pot, big mixed in. So we cannot really identify today who's a Roman, for sure. We can say, we can like conjecture, we can say, yeah, he's like a Roman, but we don't really know. All these nations today are mixed up. And also the Egyptians, as we said, we cannot identify them.
So basically this halakha doesn't apply in the modern times?
So the interesting thing is like this, right, that I'm going to get to that modern issue, but just to describe, right, what was the problem with these nations? The problem was that, as they say, they were our enemies. They tried to kill us. They tried to destroy the Jewish people, more or less. That's what they tried to do. But besides that, also, they're known to be like the most corrupted, like the most impure people. One of them, the Egyptians, the original ones. I'm not talking about today what they are. Today they're just Arabs over there, basically, like everybody else. But we're talking about the original Egyptians. They were very, very corrupted people, very impure, like very satanic, like very, very corrupted. So those people, it took 3 generations to cleanse their impurity. That's why we need that. We gotta wait till the 3rd generation because they were so corrupted. And they say, right, that the center of witchcraft was in Egypt at that time. You know what I'm saying? If you wanted to know how to be a witch, you go over there. They teach you everything. You can learn the whole, profession, right? You get a bachelor's degree, master's degree, right? PhD. Right, PhD, everything. That's the way it was.
I have to, before I forget.
Yeah.
It's interesting he brought this up about how the original Egyptians and the Romans, wiped out, and now it's just a mixed bag, because that's what the Gentile world thinks about us. The real anti-Semites, like Ahmadinejad. You remember what he used to say when he called for all the Jews to be drowned in the sea? He said, "Who are these Khazarian Jews anyway? The original Jews are long gone. These European, fake Jews," he called us. We, the Iranian people, have been around for centuries and centuries. He goes, "These people are not Jews." So that's the way they feel about us, that the original Jews...
They can feel whatever they want, but, we're talking about God's rules, we're not talking about human rules.
So even the European Jews that we have today...
Ashkenazi Jews.
They're considered authentic Jews?
The truth is, that you really don't have to be such a big rocket scientist to know if a person is a real Jew. If he behaves like a Jew, that means he's a Jew. It's you know what I mean by that? If you see a person who keeps Shabbat, he puts on tefillin, he eats kosher, that's for sure a real Jew. Why would he do such things like this?
Most Jews that are left in this world, 95% of them are secular.
Yeah, so what I'm telling you is that how do you know if a person really is a Jew? First of all, if you know that his parents were Jewish, right?
Right.
On both sides. So he's a Jew. That's number one. But let's say you don't know. You don't know what his history is, right? You're not sure who his parents were. If you see the person behaves like a Jew, we assume that he's a Jew. I'm saying according to halakha I'm talking about. This halakha. You know what I mean? How do I know if the person is Jewish? I don't know who your parents were. I don't know who your grandparents were. I have no idea who you are.
So in that case, a guy comes in, he says,
Yeah.
Mishaberach, or Birchat
Yeah.
Kohanim. How do
Kohen
I-
is something else. We cannot identify Kohen by his behavior. That's something else. But when it comes to a Jew, the Gemara says like this, Masechet Kiddushin, that a person who lives like a Jew, we assume that he's Jewish.
Okay.
You know, that's the assumption. Because, you know why? It's so hard to live like a Jew that you have to
Why
be
would
crazy.
you fake it?
Right, exactly. Nobody can really fake that. You know what I mean? Because you have to know so much, you have to be so familiar with the culture, you know? To be honest with you, a non-Jew to fake, you know, that he's a Jew, is a very, very rare, you know, because they don't know how to fake that. They don't know how to,
But
it's
most
just,
of
it doesn't, you know, doesn't.
So you just summed it up. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not judging anybody or excommunicating, but most Ashkenazi Jews
Yeah.
don't keep any of our.
Well, you know, I mean, the truth is that these Ashkenazi Jews who don't keep,
Yeah.
if you look at who their father and grandfather was, you know, there's some big rabbi, you know, some big admor, you know, these people they have very holy, you know, they do, you know. So
Yeah.
we know from that as well. But what I'm saying is, if you don't know, you know, the fact that he acts like a Jew, that means he's a Jew. You know, that's very simple. You know, because Gentiles don't live like Jews. They don't live like us. You know, they eat pork. You know, they don't put on tefillin. They don't pray. You know, shachrit in the morning. They don't do these kinds of things. You know, they don't go eat glatt kosher restaurants. They don't do such things like this. You know, they don't do. How many Gentiles do you know who do this kind of thing? Do you know one non-Jew who puts on tefillin, prays shachrit, goes to minyan, and eats glatt kosher? No such a thing like that.
don't know.
No such an animal like that. I'm sorry.
Wait a second.
You know what I mean?
You
No such an animal like that.
You really think that Ed Koch or Michael Bloomberg ever put on a tefillin in their adult life?
You never know.
Or prayed
You
shachrit?
shouldn't deride, by
Maybe
the way.
they
You shouldn't
showed up-
deride them.
maybe
Don't
they-
deride because
No, maybe they
you know,
showed up as
even
a
the most-
solidarity thing on Yom Kippur. Rosh
tell you something
Hashanah.
really funny, right? Tell you something really funny.
Yeah.
You get what you're saying? You know, like all the people who are in the Israeli politics today, right? The major players now, there's elections coming up in 19 days, right? You know that, right? Who's there, right? This guy Gans, you know. And then there's this, right? His buddies over there, and then this party, right? There's one general over there, and there's another guy, right? Ashkenazi, Gabi Ashkenazi, right? And this guy, the other guy, what's his name? I forget his name. There's like a big general, and also Bibi, right? They have pictures of every one of them with tefillin in Israel. Every one of them is putting on tefillin. Did you know that?
That's a media show.
No, it's not. These are pictures that people have.
Okay.
They have pictures of them. They took from. Other people took from them. They all put tefillin. You know.
That's like when
They all put tefillin.
One thing has nothing to do with
And I'm saying, you know, telling you that you shouldn't think. By the way, the secular Jews don't put tefillin. A lot of secular Jews they put tefillin.
No,
They
no,
don't
I'm
show
not-
it to
I'm
people.
not saying- I'm
They don't
not
show it to
saying-
anybody.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of Georgians, by the way, also the same thing. If you look at them, you don't see anything Jewish. But when in the morning, they're wrapping their hands, you know, like this. It's a very common thing, you know. It's very common. They have a tradition from their family like that, you know.
No,
That's the way it
fine.
is. You know how it is.
That's fine.
I don't have to
I'm
tell
just-
you.
know what he said about the guys in the Israeli government. They used to tell us that about the communists in Russia. Chalkso eubnebienroch merti arariu, bagram titono zalien kargat jerab merti.
Whatever you want to say, but you know the truth is that all these secular people in Israel, like you know, most of them they put tefillin. You know, it's unbelievable. You know,
It's the minimum that you could do.
that's what it is.
You know what was the biggest 3 years ago? My kids were in Israel 3-4 years ago to visit. You know what was the biggest movie in Tel Aviv? It was a pornographic gay film called Men of Israel.
Okay. I don't know how we got into this all of a sudden.
In the center of Tel Aviv, and the biggest.
We don't need to get into that, David. That's not our topic. Okay, so as we said, right, that's the idea. The Jewish people are very unique, so therefore, if you see a person who acts like a Jew, we assume that he's a Jew. You know. By the way, you should know that I deal with people, you know, like who contact me about conversion and stuff like this. You know, you saw that lady that was here with us last year. There are people like that all the time contact me. You know, and they want to convert. They're very serious. They're good people. You know,
Wonderful.
but one thing, you know, I noticed with these converts is like, you can tell right away that they were not born Jewish. Very simply, you know how? They can't even say like a word normally in Hebrew. You know, a person who was born Jewish has some, you know, some Hebrew jargon.
Inclination.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. They can't even pronounce one word.
Yeah, I mean.
Unless they practice it for 1,000 times. You understand? Why do I tell you that? Because it's not so easy for somebody who comes from the outside to acquire Jewish culture like that, you know, to become so acquainted. There are some people who do, by the way. There are some people who do. Okay, it's a different discussion.
Yeah.
You know, they say, by the way, one of them was, you know who it was, right? The one who was very acquainted. You know, Eichmann, he spoke Hebrew, he spoke Yiddish fluently. You know, the guy was like an imposter, total imposter. You know,
Aryan, huh?
unbelievable imposter. This guy was.
You know, everybody.
Not everybody's like that.
Everybody thought that Gary Marshall was a Jew. You remember the director Gary Marshall?
I don't know
He
who that
looked like a Jew. He
Yeah,
spoke like a
spoke like a
Jew,
Jew.
but he was an Italian.
Okay, that's
Because
good.
he was a Brooklynese, you know.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. You know what they say, right? There's a joke like that. They say all the non-Jews in New York, they're all Jewish.
Right.
And all the Jews in outside of New York, they're all Gentiles.
Right, right.
You know, it's a joke. You know, it's a joke. But there's some truth to it also.
Yeah, so documentary.
Yeah.
Okay.
When my friend was
So
it's bacon, favorite.
that's the idea. So we understand now a little bit about mamzer, right? What that means. Now we're talking about also the converts, as we said. So we said, right, that Adomi. So they are very impure, these nations, and this is the reason why Kadosh Baruch Hu said, "Wait 3 generations." This is the idea. When it comes to 2 other nations, which is Moab and Ammon, it says, "Don't take them forever," right? Even for 3 generations, not allowed. Moab and Ammon, forever we don't take them.
And Amalek.
That's an interesting question about Amalek, by the way. But regarding Moab and Ammon, it says, "Don't take them forever." So the Gemara says, right, why are they any worse than the Romans and the Egyptians? Don't take them forever. So says the Gemara, you know, several answers over there, but one of them is like this, right? It says that these Moab and Ammon, Moab particularly, right, they cause the Jews to sin. And these Edomim and these Egyptians, they try to kill the Jews. They say from there, you see from there that what? That a person who causes you to sin is considered to be worse than the one who kills you. Because the one who kills you, after 3 generations, they come in. The one who causes you to sin, they never come in. Right? That's the idea, right? So we see from there how bad it is to cause a person to sin. Because when you kill him, you're only taking away his olam hazeh in this world. When you cause him to sin, you're taking away his olam haba.
It was Moab and who?
Ammon, right? Ammon, yeah, that's the idea.
Ammon
So,
and Edom. Okay.
right. So that's these are nations that don't come in. They cannot come in forever. But the truth is, right, that there's also exceptions with this. As you know, that Ruth, right, who converted to Judaism and became the matriarch of the Davidic dynasty, right, the royal family, she was from Moab. So the question is, how did she come in if she was from Moab? That's the question, right? So the answer is that there was a big machloket in that time. Is it talking about Moavi, only the males, or also the females? Who was not allowed, right? There was a big discussion. So there was some who said, you know, both of them are not allowed. But then, right, came one tough guy, you know, his name was Amasa, and he said, no, I heard from the Beit Din of Shmuel HaNavi that it's only the males, not the females. What's the reason why? Because the reason why we don't take the converts from Moab is because they didn't bring out food for the Jews to eat when they came out to the desert. You know, they didn't come because they had they should have shown appreciation to them. Why is that? Because the Jewish people, they owe us their existence to us. Why is that? Because Avraham Avinu saved Lot, right, from death. So they wouldn't exist if it wasn't for our forefather. So therefore, they should have shown some appreciation. So since they have no appreciation, that's why they cannot come in. So says the Gemara, but it's not the way for women to come out in the desert, you know, and sell stuff like that. So therefore, they are permitted. This is the reason why the females of Moab and Ammon are permitted, and only the males are not permitted. What about Edom and Mitzri, right? The Romans and the Egyptians. Is it only the males or also the females as well? So the truth is, you know, it says the Gemara that this was a machloket, this issue between the rabbis, Chachamim, and Shlomo Melech. Shlomo Melech had a machloket with the Chachamim. This is why he personally took wives who were from Romans, Edomi, and he also took from Mitzri. He took all these. Why did he take them? So he told the rabbis, he said, you know, it's only the males who are forbidden, but the females are permitted. So the rabbis told him, no, so that has to do with Ammon and Moab. When it comes to Mitzri and Edomi, they're all forbidden. Why? Because this reason that we just mentioned now with Ammon and Moab coming out there, women come out, women don't, it doesn't apply to them. That's not relevant to them. This is the reason why. So therefore, the rule was, right, in the old days when we had this rule, today we don't have it, I'll explain to you why that is. So the old days when we had this rule, the rule was, so what's the halacha? Is it like Shlomo Melech or is it like the Chachamim? Halacha is like the majority, you know, always, right? That's the way it is, right? Even though Shlomo Melech was the wisest of all men, but nevertheless, when you're confronted with a majority of big bearded rabbis like that, you know, so you gotta lose, you know, you gotta bow your head. So what happened was that the halacha was that when it comes to Edomi and Mitzri, Egyptians and Romans, even the females are forbidden. And there are only 3 generations. But these, they're forbidden for all generations, but only the males, but not the females. The females are allowed right away. So this is the reason why Ruth Moaviyah was able to get in and become the matriarch of the royal family of Israel, right? Because of that. She was able to get in there. That's the idea. They say, by the way, that she lived for like several generations, because those people who gave her longevity, she was a tzaddikat, Ruth Moaviyah. So what happened was that she, even though when she married Boaz, who was the great-great-great-grandfather of David HaMelech, that was 4 generations before, but she actually she lived so long, she saw David on his throne, and Shlomo also. She was zochet to see both of them, her great-great-great-grandson, the 2 of them, he's so bold, she sat with them together on the throne. That's what they say, right? They gave her a place of kavod over there. Ruth HaMoaviyah, this is what happened with Ruth HaMoaviyah. She was able to see her descendants like this, great kings in Israel. She came to convert to Judaism like that, right? That's what happened. So we see from there, right? But the truth is, with all this that we just mentioned, what's the bottom line? What's the halakha?
Anybody's committed.
Oh, so then why is that? So the truth is, that we just had this. Yeah, right. So the truth is that we just had this in the Gemara. We just learned Daf Yomi. We learn Daf Yomi every day. So a couple of weeks ago, we got this in Masechet Brachot. It says over there, there was a machloket. In the times of the Second Temple, there was a machloket between Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Yoshua at that time. So what happened was that they came into the Beit HaMidrash, to the yeshiva. Rabbi Gamliel was a nasi, he was a president, and Rabbi Yoshua was one of the big rabbis there. So what happened was that when somebody asked, what is it today? Are the converts allowed or they're not allowed? Right? Edomi, Mitzri, Moavi, Ammoni. What is it with them? So Rabbi Gamliel said they're forbidden. Just like it was in the times of the Torah. Same thing now. What changed, right? What happened today? What changed? Nothing changed, right? Same thing. Comes Rabbi Yoshua and tells Rabbi Gamliel, no, it's not the same thing. Tells him, why you say that? What's the reason why? So he says, it says in the Torah and in the prophets, that came the big king Sancherib, right, who was the king of Ashur, of Assyria. And he mixed up all the nations. He exiled them, one place to another. He shifted everybody around. So therefore today, we don't know who's Edomi, we don't know who's Mitzri, we don't know who's Ammoni, we don't know who's Moavi. Everybody's like pretty much, it's a big smorgasbord. That's the idea. Even though technically speaking, there's still these, they do exist. What does that mean? We just don't know. God knows who they are. Because it goes according to the father. When it comes to a goy, the lineage goes according to the father, not to the mother. That's the idea, right? So God knows who they are, but we don't know. So therefore, when somebody comes to you today, so told Rabbi Yoshua to Rabbi Gamliel, today they all got mixed up. That's the idea. So therefore, it's allowed, right? So there was a discussion that went between them, back and forth. So in the end, Rabbi Gamliel admitted, they took a vote, and he was wrong. He was not correct, right? So the truth is that today, we take anybody who comes to convert. What does that mean? We don't know if today also a person is Amalek. We don't know. We don't know who the Amalek. It could be there are some people who are Amalek, they converted also. There is such a thing like that. They say Doeg Adomi, right, who was in the time of Doeg Amalek, he was from Amalek. He converted. He was a convert from Amalek. So the truth is, sometimes you can have a convert from Amalek as well. There's a machloket, by the way, in the poskim, whether somebody from Amalek is allowed to convert. One says yes, one says no. So there's also some answers that they give regarding that. They say it depends if the mother was from Amalek or the father, right? Depends on the situation. Right? If the father was, we don't take them. If the mother was, we do take them. All kinds of discussion like that. But today it's not pertinent anymore, right? This kind of thing. So what does that mean? Today we take pretty much anybody who comes, right? As long as they're qualified and good people, like Leshem Shemaim. That's the idea, right? There is a difference between ger and not a ger, right? There's all kinds of differences because in terms of their intentions, if they mean well meaning, they're not coming to pull tricks, right? All kinds of things like this. There's also another category, I'll finish up with this, right? There's also another category of people who are permitted to marry into the community, but the Gemara and the Poskim, they suggest not to marry people like that. It's a suggestion. You know what I mean? So one of them is a Ben Nida. What does that mean? A person whose mother didn't go to the mikveh, So she brought him into the world as a Nida. So what happens is that these kind of people, they tend to have bad personalities. What does that mean? Difficult, They're like, heavy, arrogant, very pushy, very brazen people, right? They say, if you see a person who's brazen, in his personality, either he's a mamzer or he's a benida, one or the other, right? So the Gemara says like this, right, that even though we're allowed to marry these people, there's no prohibition to marry them, but recommended not to. Why? Because you're going to suffer from this guy, bad personality, difficult personality, you're going to suffer. There's also, but regarding this issue, right, about marrying a benida, the truth is today, nowadays, this is also discussed by the poskim. Rabbi Feinstein has a tshuva regarding this. So what does he say about them? He says that nowadays, it's not so bad as it was before. You know why this is, by the way? The truth is that today we're on a lower level, So all the things which are not really halakha, they're just like more like higher level of observance, like this case. It's not really halakha. But the truth is, nowadays, because we're all on a lower level, so we don't really feel so much the lack of that person, because that person is not really, not really forbidden. But there is something missing there, with that person, something lacking. But the truth is that today we're like all kind of like lacking, We're pretty much all in the same boat. Like we're all like underdogs. We have problems with our personalities, with our characters, all kinds of things. We have lots of things to fix. Lots of tikkun to make in our generation, right? So therefore the truth is, these things are a little bit. So Rabbi Feinstein said the truth is that a person today, if you see that you met somebody, right, a potential spouse, who's a ben nida or bat nida, the mother was not going to mikveh. If you see that the person did tshuva, and he behaves well, behaves nicely, good personality, you're allowed to marry them, because it's not forbidden according to halacha. And also the fact that they fix themselves, because there's actually a Gemara like this. What it says, right? I'm sorry, not a Gemara. It's in the Zohar Kadosh. It says Zohar Kadosh, who was a ben nida, right? Who was the one who came from a nida? It was Avraham Avinu. He himself was a ben nida, right? His mother, who was the wife of Terach, was a nida when he bore her.
How do we know that?
We have a tradition. How do we know anything? It's from God, It's a tradition that we have. Ruach HaKodesh, So Rabbi Avinu, his mother was a ben nida.
But
so what does that mean?
There was no mikvah.
Right, there was no. They had. There were people who were keeping the Torah. There were people optionally, optional. Right, that's the idea. But the truth is, that even if you don't keep the Torah, if you have relations during the bleeding itself, that's considered to be like really, really bad. You know what I mean? During the period, it's disgusting, whatever. But some people actually like this, by the way. You should know. There are some crazy people. There are some nutty people like this, right? There are some people who are nutty. Okay, yeah, I understand you. I'm sorry. I apologize for that. So anyway, right? You can have matzot. They're white. There's no color over there. Okay. So anyway, right? As we said, there are some things like this that are. But the truth is that Avraham Avinu was a ben nida. So what does that mean? It says in Zohar Kadosh, even though Avraham Avinu was a ben nida, so how was he able to do all these great things that he did? Became such a big tzaddik, the leader of the free world. The leader of everybody. Everybody anointed him to be the king of the world. How is that? So it says in Zohar Kadosh, Avraham Avinu cleansed himself, his nida from himself. He was able to cleanse himself. So you see from there, the person it says in Zohar Kadosh, if a person is a ben nida and he's able to cleanse himself, he becomes actually much more able to bring people closer to Hashem, because that negative, that underdog quality that he had now comes out for the good. It gets reversed. It's like a reversed reaction. So what happens is that in a case like that, Avraham Avinu was more adept. He was more qualified to bring people closer to Hashem because he was a ben nida. Why? Because he was a ben nida and he fixed himself. You understand? This is the idea. So the truth is, right, as we said, this is also another reason why today a person shouldn't be so particular about these kinds of things, because these things are more like chassidut. They're more like higher level. Some people shouldn't be so particular. If you see a person as a good person, they behave well, good personality, yirat shamayim, God fearing, don't have to be so particular about that.
Means child that is conceived while she's.
Really, the truth is, it doesn't really matter.
Go to mikvah.
Right. The truth is, if she didn't go to a mikvah, it's a ben nida, because as long as you don't go, the status remains, right, forever.
Understood.
There's also another one, which is what that if they say, right, in the Zohar Kadosh, it says you shouldn't marry a woman. We mentioned this before. You shouldn't marry a woman who was divorced twice. It's also chassidut. What's the reason why? So it says in Zohar Kadosh, a woman who was divorced twice, they go down spiritually, to a bad place, So if you marry a person like that, a woman like that, the chances of the marriage succeeding are very bad, because usually she's too particular, She has a tendency to leave her man, like the abandon, She's used to it. Yeah, exactly. That's her nature, So therefore, it says Zohar Kadosh, a woman who was divorced twice, not such a good idea to marry her. By the way, what about if she was widowed twice? So there, it's even more severe, right? What does that mean? That this lady who was widowed twice has a bad mazal. You know that her husbands tend to die. So they say if a man 2 times, married woman married a man twice, and both husbands died. So it's dangerous to marry this lady. You know why? Because you also, if you marry her, you also may get the same fate, God forbid. Right? So therefore they say, better not to do it. But the truth is that if a person really wants to do it, and he thinks he's got the guts to do it, he's got the courage, he says, nothing's going to happen to me. I'm not scared, I have big zechut. He's allowed to go, to marry her. So when it's a widow, it's even worse, twice widowed. But also, Zohar Kadosh says, twice divorced also is not so good, because of this reason.
What if it's Elizabeth Taylor? Is it allowed then?
She converted to Judaism, you know that, right?
Yeah.
Also, Marilyn Monroe converted to Judaism. Did you know that?
Yeah,
she was a convert.
She
married a Jewish guy.
Husband, and then she converted to Judaism. Eddie Fisher.
Before Kennedy or after Kennedy?
Okay, Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen, amen. We'll stop here, guys. I don't want to keep you too long.